So, this is the first of two videos. This first one is United States, your vote, your voice, key terms. So, ready? Here we go. The first one we have on here is ballot. A ballot is basically a sheet of paper, and it's used in voting, and the vote is cast by one person. So it has two definitions. It can be the individual piece of paper like the picture, or it can also refer to the vote you have cast. So they say you either went and filled out your ballot or you cast your ballot. Either one remains the same. Okay? The second word we have is campaign. Now, in U.S. history, you'll learn about JFK. He's one of our most beloved presidents, also most controversial. Um, his life ended very suddenly on November 22nd, 1963. So I went with his campaign button, trying to take a little thunder off the real one. But a campaign is a connected series of activities designed to bring about a particular result, such as an election win. Um, and they usually have campaign slogans. Like we've had some really good slogans over the years. We've had Happy Days Are Here Again. We've had Back to Normalcy. We've had He Kept Us Out of the War. New Frontier. Great Society. There's been a lot of great campaign slogans. And so there it is, campaign. Our third word is candidate. A candidate is one who runs for an election contest and is proposed for an office. There are actually many candidates running in 2016 outside of just Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, because you can run as a third party, and I'll cover that in the other video, how third parties function and other questions you may have. The next word we have is debate. Now, there was actually 3 debates on TV, but a debate is a regulated discussion of a problem between two matched sides. Generally, what they try to do is get the two sides together. Well, how are you going to deal with the economy, and how are you going to deal with foreign affairs, and how are you going to deal with the war, etc. Unfortunately for us, in this campaign that recently left, the debates were more about picking on each other rather than talking about issues. And Saturday Night Live has had a great time. You probably have no idea about Saturday Night Live. Hopefully you don't. I don't know. I don't know your parents, but anywho. So that is a debate. Next word we have are duties. Duties are activities required to one's position or job. So our president actually has several duties. He is the commander-in-chief. He's the chief executive. He's chief of staff. There's a lot of things. He's basically the last line. So if it came down to a decision and it had to make a vote, the president would be the one having to make that vote. So that's pretty significant. Next, we have the electorate. The electorate are a body of people entitled to vote. What do you have to do to be part of the electorate? When you are 18, you need to register to vote, and then you need to actually go and do it. It's that simple. It doesn't cost you any money. You can't be killed over it. So this is actually pretty significant, because in other countries, you could lose your job, you could lose your life, you could lose both. But luckily for us in America, the electorate is simply that. You turn 18, you register to vote, you go and do it. The next one we have is the Electoral College. Now this is actually pretty controversial, and I'll cover it, how they function, in the other video about electing the president. But the Electoral College is the one that actually decides the president. They're a body of people representing the states of the United States who cast votes for president and vice president in the U.S. presidential elections. So the really weird thing is, when you make your popular vote, you simply are telling the Electoral College how you think they should vote. Do they have to go by that? No. Like I said, I'll get more into that when we get to the actual how we elect the president video, the second video in this series, okay? So these people have a lot of power, and you can see on there how many your state has to choose from. Next we have issues, and I've got some issues here listed. Issues: health insurance, relief, the economy, dependency, the environment. Basically, guys, issues are points of debate or controversy. When they go into the debate, they usually select a couple of issues. The candidates have their points made, and then they go and present them and how do you choose which candidate you are. Generally, what we would encourage you to do is to read up on the issues, see what the issues are, read the several candidates, big two parties, Republican, Democrat, and also third parties, and see who you align with the most and vote for that person, because that is the person who is most likely like you. And so you've made a decision rather than going off, well, I like this person's hair, or I like this person's attitude. You have to go with the issues of who is most like you. Next we have nominate, okay, and there's a process to run for president, and we'll look at the qualifications here in a second. There's not a lot, but when it comes down to it, a lot of people start throwing their name in the hat, I'd say about 2 years before the election. And what happens is there's a whole lot of debates, and it goes down to a place called a convention. And the convention is generally held the year before, or technically it could be also the year of. The year of, better. So this year's convention, the Republicans were in Denver, and the Democrats were in Cleveland. And so what they did is they went there, and they basically decided that Donald Trump would represent the Republicans, and Hillary Clinton would represent the Democrats. And all these people who are there held their sign up for their state saying, she's going to represent us, he's going to represent us, etc. And then we run through this whole process of picking from the two. Then we come to nominee. Well, nominee comes from nominate. This is the person who's been nominated for an office, duty, or position. Now, also at that conference where they basically decide who's going to be president, that presidential candidate will nominate, if you will, his vice presidential running mate, is what they call it. And I'll cover what a running mate is here in just a moment, okay? Then we have the president. The president is the chief of state of a republic. Now, this is kind of odd because you've heard we're a democratic country, but we also are a republic. So what's the difference? A democracy is one in which the people get to vote. You get to vote. What makes us a democratic republic is the fact that we are governed by the few, and the people elect these few, and they make the decisions for us. So we put these people in power and trust that they're going to do a correct job. Now, the biggest thing they have to elect is the president, and as I said, the Electoral College selects them. We've had 44 presidents. 2016 we'll have our 45th. And just sometimes you have things, there's lots of crazy things about the presidents. We had one president, William Howard Taft, who got stuck in a bathtub. We've had all kinds of just unique things about these presidents. We've had presidents who are related. We have presidents whose father and son. We've had all kinds of things. And in fact, the state who's had the most presidents is Texas. So yee-haw to that one, right? So moving on. The next thing we have is a polling place. Now, a polling place is where you go to vote. So see, there's usually a sign out there. It's a polling place. They'll put it in Spanish, lugar para votar, vota aquí. They also, I think this is probably in California because they'll have that in, I don't know if it's Korean, Chinese, I'm not trying to be discriminatory, but it's some sort of Asian writing, okay? Now we have qualifications. What do you have to do to be president? There are just 3 of them. What? 3. For 1, you have to be 35 years old. Number 2, you have to be a U.S. citizen. Number 3, you have to have lived in this country for at least U.S. state for 14 years. So, what does it come down to? You have to be a citizen born here, have to live in the state that you're coming from for 14 years, etc. And then you also have to be 35 years old. So these are special skills, knowledge, and abilities for a person for this position. Now, as you can see, it's very vague, right? And so anybody can actually run for president. You can run as a third party. And again, when I show you the second video, I'll cover that. Then we have running mate. Now, we generally call this a vice presidential. Now, here I have Ted Cruz, who did not win the Republican nomination, but he was going to have Carly Fiorina. You have to stop and think about that one. It's rough. It's an Italian name. And this is the person who's running with them as their VP. They call it running mate. On the same ticket. You vote for them on the same ballot. So when you vote If you were to go vote for Hillary Clinton, you would vote for Hillary Clinton as well as Mike or Tim Kaine, sorry, and they're kind of a package deal. They go together, hot dogs and buns, whatever. And then if you voted for Donald Trump, it'd be Donald Trump and Mike Pence. This is why you'll see signs that say Trump, Pence, Clinton, Kaine, because they're running mates. They go together. Now, we actually used to say the winner is president and the loser is vice president. We ran into a massive problem with that when Thomas Jefferson and John Adams became, because they hated each other. In fact, they died on the same day, and John Adams said Thomas Jefferson still lives. But they died on July 4th, and that's just one of the weird things through history. And I know I went completely off topic, but the whole purpose of having Run a Mate today is that you get the person who's going to work together with the president. Okay? Lastly, here we have the word stance. Now, a stance is a way of thinking or feeling about issues. Generally, Democrats, they say, have a liberal stance. And this may be going way above your head, and don't worry, you'll get it eventually. But a liberal stance is, they say, to the left. They all stay together, okay? And if you go to the left, it's kind of, they believe in making new laws to help out society. They believe in helping the general welfare, which is the general population. And they believe in things like universal health care and things like that. It does make your taxes go up to pay for these programs, but they feel these people are needed. Democrats, on the other hand, are the exact opposite. They are what we call the right. And why the right? You just kind of stick in the right lane, you drive in the right lane. It's the way things have always been done. So conservative, they are conservative in that case. Republicans are conservative. And they believe in not making many laws because they feel that this interferes, that the government comes too much in part of our lives, and that people should have a hands-off approach, hence with the word laissez-faire. I may have gone way too far there. But basically, guys, a stance is how they feel on an issue. So liberal, they want to change an issue or affect it in some way. Conservative Republicans, they feel it should stay the way it is going currently. All right? The second video, I'll cover how the election works and who's the president, etc. To an extent. I'm not going to go too in detail. All right? I hope you got this. If you didn't, you can watch it again.